Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of the Equity Podcast. I'm Joe and this is Berek.
How's it going, guys?
You'll notice that we're in the office today instead of out in front of the rig like we usually are. There's some construction going on in the gym. We're just trying to mitigate the noise as much for you guys as possible. We apologize if you hear like a drill or saw or something in the background.
It's a positive in the long run.
Yeah.
So, getting some work done.
Yeah. Making ourselves better for you guys.
Yeah.
So our main topic today is, are the workouts random? We're going to get into that and how we program and a little bit of that kind of stuff. After that, we have some member Q&A, just questions from our community. If you guys like the show, please like and subscribe. Spread the word, get us out there. It really would help us a lot.
Yeah, it helps the show a lot. We really appreciate it. Rate us on Apple Podcasts or any of the podcast formats. It really helps. We appreciate it.
Yep.
So, sponsor today. It's a perfect day, actually. This is not planned at all. But
they are working here.
But with the construction, we have Bay Country Associates. They're our sponsor today. You guys know Paul. He started Bay Country, and they do full service design and build general construction. They focus primarily on medical, dental, and commercial construction, and we cannot thank them enough for helping us out and helping the gym get better. Paul and his team are awesome, so we really appreciate it. A lot of you 930ers see Bob in here all the time doing all of our drywall work for the kids' room and the new personal area for personal belongings, so much appreciated. You can check them out at baycountryassociates.com.
So our main topic today is, are the workouts random, and like how we program. We're going to get a little bit into our programming methods and things like that and kind of demystify that for you guys a little bit. So the first point we're going to hit on is like our goal. And Berek, if you could explain what our goal looks like a little bit more.
Yeah, the first thing I like the demystify. I really like that term. A lot of times we hear CrossFit's just random, right? And it's not random, it's varied. There is a goal and a reason behind what we're doing. So our general overall goal is just to take a long-term point of view for our health and fitness. We don't care if we're fitter in a month, we care if we're fitter in 5 years, right? That's going to help us live the lives that we want to live. It's going to help us improve our quality of life. And when you have that context to working out, you realize that, I didn't PR my friend. Well, that's okay. You still got fitter, you still got healthier, right? It's that long term.
Clarifies and sets in perspective.
Yes. And then the other thing is the group classes is GPP. What GPP is general physical preparedness. We want to be able to do anything life can throw at us. If that's, carrying our buddy to the hospital because he broke his leg, or, carrying him to the car, right? Or if it's running to go get help, or chasing after your kid who's making a beeline to the road. Stop running towards the road, okay? You got to run and go get them, right? If I can't do those things, I can't live my life to the fullest. So we want to make sure that we are ready for anything. Yep. And those are the two primary goals that we're working towards when we're considering workouts.
Yep. And with that goal in mind, we want to talk about a little bit how we work towards achieving that goal and how we program towards that.
Yeah, so how do we achieve that goal? And we're going to start with the macro level. What I mean is the top down, the bigger levels. And the first thing is we want to make sure that we're doing, we want to keep our body guessing, right? Like I said, we want to be able to run. We want to pick things up. We want to be able to do all those things, and keeping it varied, even constantly varied, that can really help keep our body guessing and keep us improving over time. Yep. And then the second thing is functional/compound movements. And the reason we like functional and compound movements is because in real life, if we're walking up the stairs, if we're helping our buddy move, if we're playing a sport, right? All of those things take
more than one muscle
yes,
group. Yep.
Yes, exactly. More than one muscle group. It's not just one thing in isolation. right? When you lift something up off the ground, you're not just using your legs. You are going to use a little bit of back. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's going to help support your spine. You're going to be using some arms. When you're running, you need to have an engaged midline, or you're going to have faults in your running. So we want to make sure that they're functional movements. And then finally, the other part is relative high intensity. And that's different. When you start, your high intensity is going to be different to 5 years in. And then also different movements will require different intensity. If snatching is relatively new for you, we're going to take our time with that. But a burpee, everybody can kind of do a burpee. You get down, you get up. We can bring that intensity up pretty quickly, relatively. And then what we want to see is a mix between weightlifting, gymnastics, and monostructural movements. And monostructural movements are just a fancy word for running, jumping rope, rowing, that type of thing. So we want to be balanced along all of those things. If we can't move our body in space, we're not going to be able to, do other things. We're not going to be able to move our body in space when we have to do something. When you're working on our car, we need to be able to get into some weird positions and know what we're doing. So that's kind of like the general thing. Now, when we start getting into like actual programming, we have a very loose year cycle, very loose, and it's like I said, it's loose as in like we have some minor goals that we kind of focus on based on quarters, but it's not like we're like being super strict. So we generally have it around the open. So right after the open, we're going to focus on strength and just a very slight lean, very, very slight. And then we're going to focus on kind of power output the next quarter. And then after that, we're going to kind of be balanced. And then leading up into the open, we're going to be working on more type engine type movements. And open like workouts. I said, the open style workouts. And like I said, that's a very mild lean. Yep. And where you're going to see most of the lean is really in the supplemental side, right? We have our group classes. There's going to be very GPP with a very slight lean depending on the quarter. And then in the supplemental, we're really going to have a hard lean onto whatever the focus is for that quarter. Yep. And then the last thing is, the programming is really important, but what we're really trying to provide is coaching, right? Like when you're taking a class, you're actively being coached. If you've been coached in a snatch for 5 years, you still have room to improve. And like my snatch is still, it's up and down. It's not linear, right? So I'm still getting feedback from our coaches. I take class, Krista takes class, and it's because we understand that coaching is going to help us. And then the second thing that we really want to see is why we like group classes so much, and why we like the personal training that we do is our goal is also to get results. We want to make sure that our GPP is improving. Yep. And that's what we're looking to achieve with those goals. And we use coaching and results to really help make sure that we are achieving those goals.
Now that we have like the big macro of like how we work towards achieving goals, we want to talk about like the micros perspective and the week-to-week programming and like the very specific way that we work towards that.
Yeah, macros, that big picture, the quarters.
Yeah.
But when I talk about programming every once in a while, before or after class or something, I'll be like, oh man, the next 2 weeks are really tough or something like that. Yep. And that's because when we do programming, we do that in 2-week intervals. Mm-hmm. And what that allows us to do is, are you going to be able to hit everything in 2 weeks? No. But we can we need to kind of set some basics for a GPP program. So in a 2-week cycle, what we're going to try and do is we're going to focus on complementary movements. Mm-hmm. The easiest example is Fran, push and pull, right? And there's a squat in there as well. Complementary. They don't necessarily hurt each other. Yep. You can keep the intensity high. Oh, I just got done pushing, now I can go pull. I just pulled, now I can go push.
Great in theory.
Yes. And then we kind of stay in the couplets and triplets. And the reason is, same thing as the complementary, is that it lets us move right into that next movement.
Yep.
And it lets us keep that intensity relatively high. Again, high relative intensity. And then we like to stay somewhere in the 8 to 12 minute range. That's where we're going to see a lot of benefit. And then we want to make sure we're hitting specific movement patterns. We want to make sure we're getting a vertical pull, a horizontal pull, a vertical press, a horizontal press, squat, hinge. Like we're hitting all these different motor patterns.
Yep.
And if we don't hit all those motor patterns within 2 weeks, we want to make sure that we hit it in the next 2 weeks. So we want to make sure we're hitting as many motor patterns as we can. We also want to make sure we're hitting a strength piece. Depending on what the lean is,
Maybe
2
more of those a week.
Right.
Yep.
During a kind of like a balance time, we want 2 strengths. But during the strength quarter, we might hit 3.
Yep.
Or also maybe some heavier workouts. And then also we always have a day where we don't squat, just to kind of give those legs a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
And we also have a day where we don't go overhead. And that's just to give those shoulders a break. And of course, those of you that know me, I like spreadsheets.
A little bit.
I'm pretty sure we have a spreadsheet for everything. And tracking our 2-week cycles, I obviously use a spreadsheet for there. So hopefully right about now you'll see a nice spreadsheet right here.
If I do my job well.
If Joe gets it up there. We'll have a nice spreadsheet and you'll kind of see what I use to track our 2-week cycles. And
Yep.
the last piece that I'll say is I fill that spreadsheet out every 2 weeks and to see what I filled out. All right, I have all the weeks done. We have this all filled out. Now, what I do is I start what we missed, because I obviously missed something, because you just can't get everything in. So, all right, we didn't front squat, we didn't use a kettlebell, and we didn't do any burpees.
Yep.
So now, when I start that next 2 weeks, I'm going to focus on those 3, and make sure that those are in the classes. And then also, I use that to fill in the supplemental pieces as well. And that's kind of our general basic. I think down the road, when we start getting a little deeper into the podcast, we can get into like super specifics.
And break down certain workouts.
Yeah.
And why we chose
Yes,
that.
exactly. Like why the dumbbells, why a farmer carry and hang cleans and shoulder press, right? Why we do those certain things. And that's something that we can break down and learn.
Absolutely.
But that's kind of like our big views of the goal, our macro, and kind of the micro level of things.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So now with the main topic over, we're going to move into some Q&A from our members. If you guys have any questions, please email us, comment, get in touch with either me or Berek, and we'll try to put them in here. We love answering questions from you guys. First question comes from Katie Hunzinger. She's asking about planned cooldowns during classes and how that looks and when we use it and how we apply it.
Yeah. Ideally, every class would have a planned cooldown.
Yeah.
Every time. The problem is an hour sounds like a lot of time, but it's not. So we get that time in as much as we can. Or if it's like a workout that you can finish in a specific amount of time, we try to let people know, hey, all right, after you're done the workout, go hit a cooldown. But sometimes it's the cooldowns are super important, and it's also something that you can kind of do on your own, right? All right, I'm done the workout, I logged my stuff, I'm going to go do a cooldown.
Yep.
But what we find we can, in a class environment, we can get so much more bang for our buck focusing on the warm-up and coaching. Because so much can go wrong when moving fastly at that relative high intensity.
Like Frank?
Yeah, like
Kipping
people
pull-ups need to be
can
coached.
kind of go a little bit quicker than they should be,
Yep.
and injuries can happen. Now, like I said, like we want to do cooldowns, and it's something that we have tried to do more of in the past year, and can we do better with it? Absolutely. But that front end, I think, is a little bit more important to make sure people are staying safe. And I find that warming up can be a little bit more beneficial to people than cooling down. Not to say that it's not important, because it is important, but that's where we want to spend most of our time. An hour is a long time. We want to make sure to get as much coaching in there as possible, because that's where we feel we really bring a lot of value in breaking those movements down.
Yeah.
Great question. I mean, like I said, it's something, and I think Katie honestly is the reason that we've really started bringing. I really started bringing them up, bringing them more into classes. I think it was like last summer is when I really started using them a lot and making sure we were getting them in. And I find that I really appreciate the cooldowns when it's hot. Like the warmer it is, the more likely I am to do a cooldown.
Yeah, jumping straight in the car after work is not fun at all.
Right. Absolutely.
Our second question comes from Heidi Ginn. She's asking about pre- and post-workout nutrition and how that should look.
Yeah, this is a great question. And it's a very common question that we get a lot. People assume if I'm working out, I should be taking pre- and post-workout. And to be honest, most people don't need to. If your goal is just to be healthier and to keep getting, fitter,
yep.
Honestly, you don't need it. As long as you're eating real whole food, you're going to be fine. When pre- and post-nutrition is really important, I think morning workouters, having something pre-workout could definitely help. Not eating for 8+ hours before you work out, that blood sugar is going to be really low right after sleeping. So having a little something to eat beforehand can help bring that blood sugar up for a little bit. With post-workout, the reason that we want to get post-workout is because we want to fuel the muscles after the workout, right? We've just loaded the muscles, we've worked out, they've broken down slightly. They need fuel to build back up. So what we want to do is we want to get some protein and some carbohydrates to fuel the muscle. That's not really going to be a major issue unless your goal is competing. Mm-hmm. And competing can be, at CrossFit, like competitions, right? Or it could be at other things in sports or whatever. Or if you just really want to make sure you're getting those mad gains. Yeah. If you really want to get those mad gains, post-workout is really important. And what you want is a protein with a high glycemic index carbohydrate. Banana, raisins, something like that, and then some whey. You want the protein should also be fast reacting like whey. It's something you want to be able to drink it because it gets into your system faster. If you have to chew it and eat it, it's not going to be as fast. So like a dextrose would be the best. Just mix dextrose and whey together and drink that. That's going to be the fastest way. But a banana and a raisin, something like that, would be another really good option. And with pre-workout, in terms of caffeine, there's we can start getting in the supplements, ones that work and ones that won't. I think that's a topic for another show.
Yeah, that's a whole podcast.
Yeah, we could just talk about supplementals for a whole podcast.
Yep.
Actually, I think I'll add that right now to the
Yep.
list of things that we can do. And caffeine is one of the supplements that is proven to work.
Yep.
There is no doubt about that. Caffeine will increase your results. Now, there are some caveats into that in terms of how much you take and becoming normalized with that caffeine. Yes, decentralization. But a little bit caffeine before. And again, it's also, what's the goal? Are we training? Are we competing? If you're just training, do you need that caffeine? Maybe not. If you're competing, you
probably don't want to be taking C4 before every single
right.
general
if
class.
You're taking caffeine before every single class, just for class, that's probably not what you need to be doing.
No.
Especially if the goal is health and wellness. Yeah.
Our third and final question is from a new member, Nicole Merrick. She's a distance runner, and she's asking about working out like in the gym while training for distance running and how to avoid overtraining and things like that.
So I remember talking to her, and she's run a bunch of half marathons and interested in probably running a full marathon. And, she's a little worried about overtraining and whatnot. CrossFit was designed as a supplemental workout regimen for other things. So it really started with the police and military, right? Their whole job, they're competing. Their job is a high level, and they need to do a lot of things. And CrossFit lets them excel at those things. We need to think about our training in the group or one-on-one at Equity that same way. The working out in the gym is supplemental to your life. It doesn't matter what you do outside of this. It's going to help you in those areas, right? So it's not... Is overtraining a thing? Yes, it can happen. But with proper nutrition, with proper sleep, you can handle a lot of load. Yep. Now, that being said, running can be... High impact movements can be very hard on the joints.
Yes.
And there's always been this... Not always, but, back in the past, it's always, well, how do I get better at running? I run more. Mm-hmm. Just keep running. Just put the miles on. But running is just like anything else. It needs technique work. And you also think about relative intensity. Just going out and steady running might not be the best bang for your buck. Doing some interval type stuff can be very beneficial. And when I say interval, it doesn't have to be 400-meter repeats.
Yeah.
Right? It could be mile repeats. Right? That's still a long workout. Or 1.5 mile repeats or something like that.
Just want to break the rhythm a little bit. You don't want to be running 13 miles every single day.
Yeah, exactly. And also, you don't need this crazy high volume to get to where you want to be. You don't need this super high. CrossFit's going to help you in whatever you're doing. It's going to help you be stronger and more prepared for whatever. And the last thing what I would say is there's an awesome book. I read it when I was actually preparing for a triathlon that I did. I wouldn't say I competed in a triathlon as more as I didn't die.
You moved along the racetrack.
I didn't die, so that was good. And it's called Power, Speed, Endurance by Brian McKenzie. We actually have a copy at the gym. And he came from the endurance world, and he talked about how he came from this background of just more miles, and then he started getting the CrossFit side and started learning about some other training methodologies that you don't necessarily need that much volume. You can kind of dial that back and kind of up the intensity a little bit.
Yep.
You don't need to be running every day. You need to be running X number of days with a little bit more intensity. And so, we have a copy at the book here. This is what it looks like, Power, Speed, Endurance. And this is a great one to check out. I mean, it's a big book. It's a big book, but there's a lot of pretty pictures. So you got to love that. I really highly recommend this book. And he goes into how to train for running, right? It's Power, Speed, Endurance. And he talks a lot about the endurance side of things and how doing CrossFit classes can help with that endurance training.
Yep.
Yeah. Sweet. I mean, good questions this week.
Yeah,
I love it.
Questions.
And we actually had another one that I'm really looking forward to answering. It's kind of similar as Nicole's. I'm really looking forward to the next podcast. So a little tease about for the next week. And that one came from George. So we'll get that one next week.
Okay, great. Thanks for listening, guys. I hope the noise wasn't too bad. Should be over pretty soon, hopefully. Yeah. If you have any questions, like I said earlier, email us at info@equity.fitness. Comment wherever you're watching or listening. Get in touch with me and Berek. We'll happily put stuff in for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Thanks. Have a wonderful week.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Sorry you had to listen to me talk for so long.